Today we're doing something a little different. Oh, so it might actually be good this time. Wait, are you gonna be building? Well, yeah. And are we gonna have to suffer through those terrible puns again? Of course, they're gonna keep coming till you become the walking red. So far it doesn't sound very different. I would just... Okay, we did this intro last episode. We're not doing it again. What else would we do? Make original content? Did any of you get paid for the last video? Because I definitely did. Your checks are in the post. We don't have a post office. I couldn't even afford food yesterday. I had to borrow my neighbor's cow. You still have the banner, right? Yeah, I do. I just stole it from Pin. I mean, no, I haven't seen it. I think he actually stole my money the other day. All my diamonds just magically turned into coal. Yeah, he also stole my cow. The heating elements in my toaster. Yeah, I did too. Yeah, I finally figured out what it was. Okay, fine, you'll get your money. Let's hope so, because you can't escape us any more than you can escape yourself. Anyway, when I said the video is different, I just meant it's different because the build style is going to be changing. No, don't. No one cares. In the last episode, which was the last episode in the series, until at last I'm making another one, I finally turned this big empty cave into a big cave with a thing in it by building a temple. And today we're gonna be doing, drumroll please, even more building. Yay. That was weird. Yeah, I know. One thing I really want to finish are these doors, but past me decided to be extra smart and thought it'd be a good idea to make them entirely out of logs, so before I can do that I first have to build a tree farm. And even though I've literally only built 2 buildings, I feel like I've been building in this style quite a bit. So as I was trying to say in the intro, before I was rudely interrupted by those weird looking people, I want to try making this tree farm in a much different style than I've done so far. Ow. And as I'm sure you already know, the different style build that I want to put my tree farm in is gonna be a sewer, because I can't think of any better place to grow trees. But sewers of course go underground, so before I can do any building, I first have to do something I don't think I've ever done on this channel before, which is digging a hole. And we're done. Even though this is a whole lot of hole, I don't think I even got a single piece of coal. The only reason I can think of is maybe when I dug my big hole, I dug into a mole's tunnel, which took a toll on the mole's coal, which caused the mole to spiral out of control and enroll his friend Cole the mole and stole the coal out of this whole hole. Oh, so why is there cake here? I think I've been underground a bit too long. Anyway, I've already made a video about digging a hole, so why don't we get started on that sewer? The walls are going to be built almost entirely out of stone brick, so there's not too many resources I need to collect, but there is still one thing I need. And watching people collect resources never gets old, so of course I have to include some of it in the video. The one resource I need to collect is copper, and I already have a bunch of the raw block from all the mining I've done, so now I just need to smelt it all. And then a lot of people complain about how long copper takes to age, but if you just craft a bunch of clocks, it's actually pretty fast. Although I think I actually want to keep it on the 3rd stage. There we go. That should be all the copper I need, which means if I was telling the truth, all the resource gathering would be done. But I forgot I also need to get some cactus, so let's just take a quick trip to the desert. And I'm pretty much just using the cactus for dyeing some terracotta, so I really don't need that much. Wow, you really suck at mining cactus. Okay, that's great. And even then, I'm actually going to be using cyan dye, which means I need even less, like, really suck of it. You do that one more time, there's other things I can do with this cactus. Okay, I'm guessing you have a better way of doing it. Now that you mention it, I do have a better way. You simply just take a single piece of cactus and then woo. I'm sorry. Yeah. And since we're here, I'm pretty sure I deserted one of my beacons in the mesa last episode, so I might as well pick that up too. Anyway, definitely not procrastinating aside, let's start doing some actual building. Starting off with a viewing platform, which is where you'll be viewing the tree farm while standing on a platform. And speaking of viewing, if you haven't already, don't forget to leave a view on this video. It's completely free and you can always unview later. You may be wondering why this platform is so closed in, to the point where it almost looks like I'm going to be having a gas-powered tree farm, and this is because I'm going to be having a gas-powered tree farm. But that's for next episode, for now you're just stuck watching me build. With the viewing platform in place, this area still looks nothing like a sewer, so let's start adding in some water. And not only do these water streams look pretty cool, but some of them will also be used to carry the items from the tree farm. Of course there's a slime chunk down here. There's the center stream dug out, so now I just need to retexture it. And then we can add in the water. That looks pretty good, although it does kind of just look like the water's coming out of nowhere. So let's fix that by adding in a pipe. There we go. This is Minecraft, so making it perfectly circular would be a pipe dream, but I think that looks pretty good. There's obviously still quite a few more of these I have to build, but I can't really build any more of these until I build the wall, so let's build the wall. Starting off with this wall, the first step is to basically just place down a bunch of stone bricks, which is pretty boring, so let's just get that over with real quick. Perfect, and then we can do something a little bit more interesting. Or at least more interesting if you're interested in old rusty bridges. To make this sort of damaged metal look, I'm just using a mixture of andesite and polished andesite. Andesite, where I got all this andesite, is this hole, which means it's yet another instance that mining it out by hand has kinda paid for itself. I can then use a mixture of copper, dripstone, and granite to create these little rust patches, which I think look pretty cool. Although I do kinda need to wax the copper so the color doesn't change, so hopefully I actually have some honeycomb. Yeah, that should do. And it looks like I made it back before the copper aged at all, which means I'm rust in time. I personally think bridges are a great idea, so in order to support them, I'm going to be using some stone brick walls. To finish them off, I'm just adding some railings using iron bars, and then we can place down a few lanterns to get rid of some of the torch spam. And on all the walls that don't have a lantern on them, I'm just going to place a flower pot, which sort of kind of not really, but we can pretend looks like a burnt out lantern. For the overall style of the sewer, I wanted it to be really detailed, but also have a somewhat simple look to it, and I think these bridges help to bridge the two styles really nicely. Although right now it obviously still looks pretty terrible, so let's start filling in some of these empty sections, starting off with these 3 circular ones. I mean, I guess it's technically not actually circular, but you know what I mean. But just out of curiosity, this is a 1, 2, 3, 4 off-camera counting 20-sided shape, so I guess it'd be called an icosagon. This sounds like a really bad pun setup, it's definitely not. Sorry to interrupt, I was just wondering if you've seen my dog. He wears a green collar and his name's Ico. No, I'm sorry, I think icosagon. Anyway, in these 3 spaces I used some iron trapdoors as well as some deep slate stairs to create some vents. Next up we have this upside down U shape, which most normal people also call an N, and here we're going to be having another one of these waterfalls. But this one's going to be coming out of a tunnel, so before I can fall off a cliff. But this one's going to be coming out of a tunnel, so before I can add any water I first have to do some digging. There's the waterfall done, although unlike the other one I built and all the other ones I'm going to build, this one goes right up against the wall, so I think I just want to cut off the water temporarily and try making these stone bricks look a bit more wet. Yeah, that looks much better. One thing that the sewer's obviously missing is some color, so why don't we put in a few colored pipes? You may have seen this before, but one really good way to make pipes is to surround some water and acacia trapdoors. Even though it's not the best for going around corners, the thing I really like about this design is how you can see all the water, as it adds a lot of life to your build. The rest of the pipes are pretty much just going to be copper, so why don't we just throw those in real quick. Even just with those in, it's already looking way better. I also just added in all these pathways off camera, as it's pretty much just a bunch more stone. The next step is to fill in this area. And to do that I'll be using yet another bridge, however this one's going to be built in the same style as our viewing platform, and then we can just suspend it from the ceiling using some chains. At this point it's finally starting to look finished, but I still feel like there's way too many stone bricks, so why don't we add in some texture. Yeah, that looks much better. So now all that's left is 4 pillars, 2 doors that totally go somewhere, 4 more pillars, 6 arches, 3 vents, and a partridge in a pear tree. There's the first wall finished, and I think it ended up looking pretty good. But even with this done, there's still quite a bit left to do. And before you click off the video, don't worry, because these ones will be done in a time lapse. And just like that, all the walls are finished, and I'm no sewer connoisseur, but I think it looks pretty good. All the walls are obviously fairly similar to the first one I built, but each of them does kind of have their own thing. Like this one is sort of like the main wall, as all the wood from the tree farm is actually going to be pushed into this area here. And just as a reminder, this whole thing is just for a tree farm. Once the wood makes it to this opening, it will then be destroyed by a bunch of gas, which will be floating somewhere in the middle here. And over here, I also tried using some blast furnaces and whatnot to add a bit more detail to some of the pipes. I have no idea what the purpose of this stuff is, but if you just quickly look up some pictures of sewers, you'll still have no idea, so for now let's just say it looks good. Moving on to the back wall, not only do we have the biggest of all the pipes, but also at the top there's a second viewing platform, so you can actually see all the stuff I just spent hours building. Along the back of the back wall, we also have this more normal sized sewer that's pouring down into the bigger one. In the middle we have a sort of service tunnel, which has a bunch of random containers, a ladder that definitely doesn't just go up a block higher than you can see, as well as a small pile of wood, as there's lots of things down here that are made out of wood. And then on the other end, we have another one of these small sewers, which right now kinda just looks like a stone wall, because I haven't built it yet. But probably my favorite thing about this wall has to be this thing, as I'm a really big fan of how the design turned out. And last and definitely least, the thing that makes this wall special is it adds a certain atmospheric value to the—
No one cares.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same as the first wall. There's obviously still a bunch of stuff left to do, but before we do any of that, why don't we just take a quick break from the sewer and go up for some air? And by that, of course, I mean go into a slightly bigger hole, which only has a little bit more air. And out here, I want to build the second of these smaller buildings, which will act as an entrance to the sewer. But before I can do any kind of building, I first have to defeat this Class C shulker monster. There we go, and now that that's swept away, we can start working on the building. Because I'm so unbelievably creative, the block palette's once again going to be exactly the same as the temple, that of course being spruce, white terracotta, sandstone of the smooth variety, stripped spruce, and then a layer of signs and stuff to make it look like I'm good at building. There's the bottom of the building done, but what's really going to make it stand out is the roof. And the roof will once again be this blue color, which we'll make with warped wood, warped wart, and work in some wax weathered copper. I mean, it's actually oxidized copper, but that doesn't start with a W. And with all the blue in place, I can start adding in a bunch of different lines and curves using dark oak wood. And this step, of course, is what gives it its curve appeal. There's the first layer done, which right now kinda just looks like a turtle shell, which I guess if I added in some green ooze would fit the sewer perfectly. Anyway, the final step is to add on a few more curves using birchwood and sandstone. There, we've now gone from turtle shell to samurai helmet, which I didn't really do on purpose, but I mean I could have done it on purpose, and it looks pretty cool, so let's just say I did do it on purpose. But overall, I think this roof looks much better than the last one. So now all that's left of the exterior is to make it obvious that there's a tree farm inside of it, just like I did with the skulk in the last building. So to do that, I'll put a few saplings and flower pots over in this little room. And then on the other side of the building, I want to add in a cherry tree, but since the actual ones aren't out yet, for now I'll just have to build it. And then as soon as 1.20 comes out, I can just replace this. I mean, the update does come out in like 2 days, so I probably could have just waited, but whatever. I'm also just gonna add on some soul lanterns, not because they're related to trees, I just forgot to put them on. And there's the second building complete, and I really like how this one turned out. But that's just the outside done. I still have to build an interior, and I don't think I've ever actually built one on camera before. So why start now? I'm kidding, I need more footage. To tie the colorful wooden building in with the grady saturated looking sewer, I thought it'd be cool if we made it look like some sort of old sewer access building had been taken down and then a wood shop had been built over it. Starting off with the floor, the old part's going to be made out of stone and andesite, and the new part's going to be made out of acacia logs. And this gives the whole thing a fairly similar color, but still different enough where it's pretty obvious that this was originally a different floor. Moving on to the walls, the old sewer part's just gonna be a bunch more stone bricks. And then over here we got the incredibly fun task of dealing with these two thick walls. And I think the best way to do so is gonna be to place another layer of logs in all the gaps, and then we can just cover up the rest of it using some trapdoors. And there's the walls pretty much done, so now we just have the ceiling left. This part is just gonna be made out of some stone and terracotta, which is obviously made to mimic the ceiling of the sewer. Which actually isn't that obvious, because I haven't built it yet. And the main ceiling will be made with some crisscrossing spruce wood and filled in with some slabs. And now it's time for the fun part, where we add in all the decorations to make it actually look like a wood shop. We'll start off by making a table with a tool, then building a fancy wooden stool, a brand new grindstone, an armor stand all alone, a few shelves that match the wall's tone, a couple of ladder, a pile of dust from all the particulate matter, a stone cutter, an axe too big for butter, a second balcony that's slightly lower than the other, an old pipe broken in two, some barrels to hold your extra screws and glue, a pipe covered in rust, a small pile of sawdust, a couple hidden lights to replace the torches, a flint and steel to make some small scorches, a lantern, a lectern, a sign that says Hector, and a jar door, a boat that's far off the floor, and a few piles of wood because you always need more. And with all that in place, the workshop is finished. which means the main entrance to the sewer is also pretty much done. We just have to finish this little area here. And as you know from the video title, assuming I didn't change it, this isn't just supposed to be a sewer, it's supposed to be a super secret sewer, so in here I want to put some piston doors. And just because they're slightly more satisfying than normal piston doors, I want to try making a spiral one. And in case you don't already know, in order to make one of these, you simply just place a few pistons, a couple of observers, a few pieces of redstone, a sticky piston with a slime block on it, just make sure it's not touching anything solid, a repeater set to 3 ticks and 2 ticks, a few solid blocks, a comparator on each side, both set to subtract mode, another line of redstone going into a repeater on 4 ticks, and then another line of pistons on top. And now as soon as I flick this lever, it should bring up a tutorial that shows me exactly how to build it. I still think mine was pretty good, but apparently this is what it's actually supposed to look like. And this was designed by InfinityMC, who just so happens to be infinitely better at MC than I am, so unlike my door, this one actually works. So I guess there's that. But anyway, let's see how this thing looks. Yeah, that's pretty cool, but do you know what's better than 1 piston door? 2 piston doors. And what's better than 2 piston doors? 3 piston doors. And what's better than 3 piston doors? Posting a video, so I should probably stop now. But even with the triple piston door, it's still really not that secret. I'll start by moving the lever to a slightly more hidden spot, and then I'll just add a small wooden barricade in front of the door. And to make the middle of this barrier, I want to use some signs placed against each other, which is pretty hard to do, but the best way I found is to place a sign up against a block, and then try placing the sign as soon as you break the block. As soon as it breaks. As soon as it breaks. As soon as you break the block, you place the sign. The moment the block breaks, you just have to place a sign, finally! And now I just need to do that 4 more times. There, nice and easy. And the reason the signs are perfect for this is not only do they look exactly like boards, but you can also walk through them, which makes it so the sewer's not impossible to enter. And with that done, it now looks like whoever lived here, which I guess is Hector, either tried to cover it up because he wasn't using it, or he was trying to keep it hidden from anyone who entered his shop so that they'd never ever find out what he was working on down there. There's some glorious lore for you. But anyway, I guess I should probably finish the sewer now. The first thing I want to do is to actually connect these 2 viewing platforms, because right now they're not. So let's just continue this bridge over using some more basalt and glass. Alright, I have the 2 platforms connected now, but this room still looks pretty terrible. So to fix that, I'll start by replacing all the walls with stone bricks. Now we just need to do the rest of it, which by now I'm sure you know the drill, but in case you don't, his name's Walt and he's kind of a flathead. Drills aside, I'm just gonna add in a couple pipes, a few bigger pipes, some water in the pipe, and then all that's left is some smaller details, like the old bar and chain. A pressure gauge that I don't really want to put here, but Walt pressured me to do it, so I guess it's fine. You may have seen me do this on some other parts already, but by using some stairs and slabs and whatnot, you can make it look like the wall's beginning to fall apart. You can then use some signs to make it look like an attempt has been made to fix it. And this perhaps could have been done by some kind of woodworker that definitely never comes in here. For the ceiling, I'm once again using cyan terracotta and just mixing it in with some iron trapdoors to give it a somewhat ventilated look. And now we have a much more fitting walkway between the 2 areas. The next thing I want to do is to finish the last of the 3 tunnels. And instead of just copying this one exactly, I thought it'd be cool if we made it look like it was collapsed. So up at the front, I'll add in the same arches and pathways that you see in the other one. And from there we can start adding in some piles of rubble, a few patches of dirt, and finish it off by extending this pipe. And there's our collapsed sewer finished. And I'm pretty sure the technical term for something like this is actually an ADFLBAS, which stands for I don't feel like building another sewer. And because there's gonna be no more water coming out of it, I tried to make it look like the place where it would be going is all dried up. And since we're down here, I might as well do the floor next. So anywhere that's under an overhang or against a wall or whatever, I'm just adding in some moss and mushrooms. Not to the point where it's flourishing, but at least a decent amount. And then I'll also just add in a few small puddles, some different colored buttons to look like garbage, and finish it off with some seagrass just in case the turtles run out of pizza. There's the first one done, but I don't really feel like doing any more, so oh, perfect. Hey, you're a mess, you'd be really good at this. Oh, okay, I can do that. Good. And then as soon as he's done that, we can head back up to the top. Wait, what? How did you just... I looked away for like 2 seconds. Pete, stop. Oh, okay. Wait, did he also build a water tank? Okay, I have no idea what just happened, but I think I'll make fun of him more often. Anyway, let's see how this thing looks from above. Which I can't actually do because I don't have rockets. But luckily I'm pretty sure this pipe takes me back to the surface, so I guess let's go through. Yeah, this is not my viewing platform. This totally one-ups all the strange things that have happened so far. There's not much room to get any weirder. Also, why do I suddenly have a craving for peaches? Wait, why do you look like... Never mind, it got weirder. Yeah, so I think I'll just head back. Alright, after being cooped up there for a while, I finally made it to the top, and I think the floor looks pretty good from up here. And speaking of the top, I've also built the ceiling now. It's nothing too special, it's mostly just blocks. But one thing I really like about it is the two places with the dirt patches are right above the spots with the most rust, which kinda makes sense, as I imagine there'd be some water dripping from this, which would cause some of the metal to rust. So I'm glad that I definitely did that on purpose. And speaking of things dripping, over here I tried to create a leaky pipe using a stair and some blue candles, which I think is a really cool effect. To finish off where we started, I'm just adding in a couple more of these broken looking lights, and then we're done. That was a lot of stuff. So let's just take one final look at it. We start off with this little thing, which is probably one of my favorite buildings I've ever built. And then we can head inside to find the wood shop, which is decorated with my entire random wood stuff chest. We can then go through the super secret, slightly suspicious spiral door, where we find the sewer system. And with that, that's gonna be it for me today, so thanks for watching and see you all in the next episode, where unless I get too distracted by 1.20, I'll be getting some gas for our tree farm.